Welcome, Bronco Nation, to my final regular season 3 keys to the game video. This one is going to be for Boise State versus San Jose State, playing in the Mountain West Championship game on Saturday, this Saturday, of course, 2:15 p.m. Mountain Time on Fox. Before I start this video, I just want to say, Bronco Nation, that this has been an absolute joy making these videos. First year that I've done it. I know a lot of you beforehand knew that I write out pretty much what I say in these videos. I would write them out in kind of a long blog type format and put them onto the Bronco Nation updates page. This year with my schedule, I just didn't have time to spend writing all those, so I decided to take to the videos made. This is the first year I've ever made YouTube videos, ever. Not just these kind of videos, but ever. I've really enjoyed doing it. I'm going to definitely be doing it again next year. This is my final regular season 3 keys to the game video, but hopefully I'll get to do one for the bowl game. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood, whatever we need to do. Boise State is guaranteed a bowl game matchup right now. We're just going to find out what that is after the Mountain West Championship game. But of course, with COVID, everything going on, who knows? Not guaranteed what happens tomorrow. We're only guaranteed what happens today, as the good book says. So the Boise State playing San Jose State, that's going to be our focus this week. If you like these videos, please make sure to like and subscribe, and put in the comments anything that you think could make these videos better. I can tell you right now, I know a couple of things you're going to say. One, put in digital graphics, that kind of thing. Again, brand new to YouTube, I will work on getting those. Second, probably you're going to say highlights of some form. I am going to look into getting those. I'm not sure how the rights work. I will look into getting those if I can legally. If I can't do it legally, I'm not going to do it. And then the third thing, I know a lot of people have said it before, shave the mustache. I understand this is my pilot training mustache. Once I'm done pilot training, it will be gone, and it will be gone next year, except for No Shave November, of course, but it will be gone next year. So if you have any comments outside of those three, please put them into the comment section of the video. Anything I can do to improve these, make these better viewing for you. I have a couple ideas already, but I would appreciate any feedback and help that I can get on that at all. So let's launch right into this final regular season 3 keys to the game versus San Jose State. Boise State is favored in this matchup by 6.5 points, despite being the unranked team. So technically it will be an upset if they can beat San Jose State. San Jose State ranked at number 24 for the first time in their school's history, in the college football playoff rankings, that is. They have been in the AP before, but first year in their school history. Outstanding job for San Jose State. They are 6-0 coming this matchup. Boise State is 5-1. The Spartans have had an unbelievable year for their program, especially a team that only a few years ago was the bottom feeder, or one of the bottom feeders of the Mountain West. They have done an incredible job of resuscitating their program, coming back. I wouldn't even say resuscitating, because historically San Jose State has not been a football powerhouse. Even when Boise State used to play them back when we were in the WAC together, they were terrible, and Boise State would crush them. But San Jose State is not that team anymore. This is a competent team. This is a very competitive team. Only 6.5 Boise State favorites, but this is a team that's going to go out there. Boise State's going to have to be playing one of their top games, one of their best games of the year, to be able to go out and beat this team, and we'll get into that shortly here. So this is a very good San Jose State team. If there are any Spartan fans watching this, I do have a bit of an affinity for the Spartans, for San Jose State, of course, with my great uncle having been the athletic director of San Jose State as well as of Boise State. So no conflict of interest here. I am fully Boise State in this one, but congratulations, Spartans. I appreciate the work the program has done turning around. I've been regularly following them since about 2011 here, so great job to watch where they are. So, first key of the game, make Nick Starkel uncomfortable. Nick Starkel, San Jose State is a passing-first offense. Nick Starkel has 106 of 160 completions for 1,453 yards, 13 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions for a passing completion percentage of 66.3%, and that's with being out a game due to injury. So he has had a great performance, and was it 2 games? It was definitely 1 game. I think it was just 1 game. I remember I was looking through and seeing his stats. Definitely 1 game. So anyhow, great performance for him this year. But San Jose State is a pass-first offense. Their running game is competent. It is there. Running backs T. Nevins has 51 carries for 454 yards, averaging over 8 yards per carry for 5 touchdowns. And then the backup running back K. Robinson has 61 carries for 246 yards. However, San Jose State lives or dies on their passing game. That's where the majority of their scores have come from. And the running game is sparked from the passing game. Defense is having to play coverage, they're having to back up, giving room to run for San Jose State. So Boise State is going to need to get to Nick Starkel. They're going to need to fluster him. They're going to need to hurry him, and they're going to need to sack him. Now, Nick Starkel has only been sacked 3 times, and Boise State only has 16 sacks on the year. That is one of their lowest that they have ever had. I believe that it is their lowest overall sack numbers that they've had since joining FBS, and definitely the lowest in the past 10 years. Curtis Weaver by himself last year had 13.5, so he's 2.5 short of having the number of sacks Boise State. He was 2.5 short of having the number of sacks Boise State has had this year. So they have not been good at getting to the quarterback, and that's what's really impacted their passing game, their passing defense, that is. Boise State corners have actually played a pretty good job all season, but when the quarterback is been given time and the rush has not been able to get to him, there's only so much they can do. And the Boise State corners have gotten burned several times by competent quarterbacks. Now, Boise State has only really played 2 what I would call solid quarterbacks this year, and that's BYU's and Zach Wilson, and Hawaii's quarterback. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a complete brain blank. Starts with Cordero, and Hawaii's quarterback Cordero. Now, Boise State is averaging 169 yards per game in the passing defense. However, that's factoring in a game against Air Force, which they're almost only run, so that kind of takes off a little bit of that. And then they've also played some very bad quarterbacks this year. However, Boise State against BYU, against competent quarterbacks, so good quarterbacks, Boise State has given up over 300 yards to both of them. Against BYU, against Zach Wilson, they gave up 573 yards. And against Cordero, against Hawaii, they gave up 394 yards. That has really stung Boise State in both of those. And in both of those, it was because they couldn't get the pass rush to the quarterback. Too much time. Now, in the first half against BYU, Boise State did get to the quarterback, sacked him a couple of times. But after that, Boise State was they were tired. They weren't getting after it, and they couldn't get to Zach Wilson. So if Boise State does not get into Nick Starkel's face, doesn't get against him all game, doesn't get some sacks in there and shorten the amount of time, Boise State's great cornerbacks, though they are, Avery Williams getting a first-team nod on the Mountain West there for All-Mountain West team as in the secondary. They're not going to be able to stay on these good San Jose State wide receivers. They have a wide receiver that's over 600 yards, and another wide receiver is over 400 yards this year. They are some great receivers out there. Boise State is going to need to limit the time Nick Starkel has to pass. So make Nick Starkel uncomfortable is going to be our first key. Second key is going to emphasize creativity in the second half. Now, Boise State, they always have a creative offense. However, what they've had a tendency to do under Brian Harsin is to kind of tailor off in the second half. Creativity goes on the shelf, and it's run it up the middle, try to pass it deep, or try to pass it to get that third down on long yardage. And that's kind of been the trend. And they've also, in the past, has trended to not really put on the foot on the pedal and score points in the second half. However, this year, Boise State is averaging more points in the first half, 22, and less points in the second half, 15. But the point difference is not that great. 22 to 15 is not that big of a difference. However, the play style is changing significantly in the second half. Beyond just being aggressive, the calls themselves, like I said, it's run it, pass, or run it, get into rhythm, and then pass. It's not being consistent. For instance, last week, perfect example, against Wyoming, in the snow, rough conditions, had to change up the game plan. Boise State was incorporating the wide receiver sweeps, end arounds, getting the ball in the receiver's hands in the run game. It was working fantastic. Boise State had about 5 or 6 sweeps ran in the first half. It was doing a great job of loosening up the defense, spreading them out, and allowing running rooms up the middle and also passing lanes over the top for Boise State because the defense was having to cut in. However, in the second half, Boise State only ran 2 wide receiver sweeps. That's it in the second half. And one of those was for loss because it was a pitchback. That's it. Boise State was having so much success with that in the first half, and they completely went away from it. The creativity completely shut down, and it looked like any offense that anybody from the stand could have called. Run, pass, run, pass. It was not creative. Boise State needs to stay aggressive, and they were aggressive. They were still going after it. There's play calling completely tailored off. I don't know if they ran out of the playbook. I doubt that. Brian Harsin is an incredible offensive mind, so I'm sure there's more plays on that playbook. Boise State's got to keep going back to the well, keep going to those creative plays that create that success if they want to beat a team like San Jose State. Because San Jose State, if you take your foot off the pedal, this is a defense that is tenacious. They have done a great job of limiting the points that of offensive have been able to score against them, even offenses that usually put up a lot of points. They've done a great job. I believe they're holding opponents to under 20 yards per game. Don't quote me on that. I forgot to write that one down. But they are playing a great defense. Most of the scores have been 20 to 17 points for their teams that they've played. Offensively, they're not an offensive fire hose. They're not an offensive powerhouse. They score, I think it's about 30 or so points per game. So moderate, they're not putting up huge 40-plus point numbers like Boise State has tended to do in most of their games. However, they play a very solid, consistent style, and they will come back and bite you if you don't play well in the second half. Against Nevada last week, San Jose State was down by 21 points in the second half. They came out with a kick return, and then they just picked it up. And in the second half, they ended up winning that game, and that's why we're facing them in the Mountain West Championship game. So Boise State cannot take the foot off the pedal. Continue to mix in the sweeps and the wide receiver runs if that's working. Continue to shift, get the movers, get the defense looking in different directions. Continue to mix in the tight end passing game. Boise State has some great receiving tight ends who can really get out there and make things work in the passing game, and they're really kind of tapering off in the second half. So we continue mixing the tight ends and mixing some screens. Boise State's run almost no screens. It's really kind of tapered off in college football as a whole this year, but they've really run a very few screens. So run some screens to really kind of loosen up the defense there, and maybe a trick play. Now Boise State, we're known as the trick play university. Maybe unfairly, but Boise State runs a very consistent offense. But once you beat a team like Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl with 3 trick plays at the end of the game, which, by the way, Boise State had run no trick plays or no trick plays up to that point. In fact, the commentators, right before Zabransky threw that interception and then Boise State had to run the trick plays, the commentators were saying how great a job it was that Boise State had beaten Oklahoma just running normal offense, not having to rely on gadget plays. So Boise State did run trick plays, and that's what we're famous for, and Boise State tends to throw in a trick play every game. But Boise State is known for their consistent offense. However, when team needs a spark, when you have run that consistent offense all game, the second half is the time to go to that bag of tricks. They've gotten into a rhythm. They're not expecting it. Boise State has not run a lot of trick plays all year. There's been a couple games where they didn't run any trick plays. It's really something that's kind of tapered off. So teams are not going to be necessarily game planning as much as they would in the past with Boise State on this. Boise State has a real opportunity if they're running their normal offense in the first half to lull San Jose State into kind of a false sense of security. There's a lot of plays that Boise State runs with setup plays where they could become a toss back, either a wide receiver toss or a halfback toss or something like that. There's a lot of plays that Boise State runs in their normal offense that are perfect for a trick play if it was necessary. The defense is already used to the look of that play, and they may not be looking for it. And it may be Boise State's been holding off because they've been saving the big ones for the end. Who knows? But Boise State needs to do something to mix in to emphasize and to spark the creativity and the aggressiveness of the offense in the second half. I'm not saying it has to be trick plays. If Boise State can do it running the normal offense is great, but the key is normal offense. What Boise State is running in the second half is not their normal offense. It's a lethargic, it's a not very creative, it's a predictable offense that Boise State's running in the second half. So run their normal offense, and hey, maybe it's making this trick play if it's there. I think it will be. So that's the second key, emphasize creativity in the second half. Final key of the game, time for key players to shine. Boise State is on national TV. They're in a good time slot. It's 2:15 p.m. Mountain Time, but it's 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time, which is it's not the 2 p.m. Eastern time slot, which is kind of a dead zone. So the prime time, of course, you've got the afternoon 12 p.m. games, and then you've got about this 5:30, 6 p.m. Those are the real prime time. So Boise State is in a little bit of a dead spot, but they're on the tail end of it when people are getting in. They're getting their tailgating ready. They have a game on, and on a big network. Boise State's finally on Fox, like this game was supposed to be before it was canceled during the regular season. Boise State's on Fox in a good time slot. A lot of eyes are going to be on them. Boise State, it not only needs to end the year on a good note, but they need to set themselves up for success for next year. So Boise State next year is going to be an incredible football team. As long as they can get their full team back, which I think they will, and keep their players healthy throughout the year, and COVID's not a thing, hopefully next year, Boise State is going to be an incredible football team that's definitely going to be, I think, the front runner potentially. Maybe not the way pollsters put them out there and analysts, but myself looking forward to a season, I think Boise State's definitely going to be the front runner in my eyes for that New Year's Six slot. And they potentially they play some big Power 5 teams next year. I'd have to pull up the exact schedule to remember what it was, but they do play a couple of big Power 5 teams. It'd be great if they could. They will put themselves in a good spot to potentially challenge for the committee to have to think about putting them into a potential playoff. I'm going to a lot of potentials. I know I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. Boise State's going to playoffs. I'm not saying that. Don't quote me on that. But this is going to be a good Boise State football team next year. And if they can end the year on a really solid note, get into those top 25 rankings, they're going to set themselves up for a lot of success next year, because where you start in the rankings determines your ceiling. And how Boise State finishes, we're only guaranteed one game at a time, right? And there's only 2 games left regardless, potentially. How Boise State finishes now is going to set them up for success next year. It's going to set them up for how they start next year. So key players, a lot of how, first off, how you get into the rankings in the first place, and a lot of how the hype develops and how teams kind of start to put you into those positions where you can compete for potential New Year's Six, depends on your key players. If you're just a really solid program, you might catch some eyes. You might potentially be able to get into those rankings. But the way that the media runs, the way that the bias is in the AP poll and in the college football playoff poll, they're looking at what is getting the attention. And what gets attention is individual. So football is a team sport, but what gets media attention is individual performances. And if Boise State, their key players, and I'm looking at Bachmeier, I'm looking at Helani if he's back from injury, I'm looking at Khalil Shakir, I'm looking at Avery Williams. If those players can have incredible eye-catching, eye-popping stats, this game will go a long way to developing that media frenzy of attention. That media frenzy of attention to get Boise State into those rankings and to get talk going for next year. It's how you end is how they're going to remember you. Get talk going for next year to set Boise State up in a place where they can jump. I know the coaches always say they don't care about the rankings. Well, the end is determined by how you start, and how you start is determined by the rankings. So Boise State needs to get into those rankings in this year. Or I would say needs to, but it'd be great if they could get the rankings in the year. And if they can have their key players make some great plays, have incredible performances, it'll do a lot to getting them into that and sparking that media conversation that will help Boise State next year. So wrap up the 3 keys to the game: make Nick Starkel uncomfortable, emphasize creativity in the second half, and time for key players to shine. Those are the 3 keys to the game. Now, going over my score prediction here, I made a big mistake last week. If you remember my score prediction, it was something like, 40 plus 49 to 21 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a high score by both teams, putting up a lot of points and a high divide for Boise State. But I forgot, when I made that prediction, I forgot to look at the weather. If I had known that we were going to have that much snow in Laramie, I would not have made that prediction. I would probably have predicted something. And I mean, this is retrospective, hindsight 2020. I don't get to count this. But I would probably have predicted something like 24-10. So Boise State with this. Now, I checked the weather this time. Good weather, highs of 52, lows of 28 in Vegas. So great weather for Bachmeier to get out there. Good receiving weather, no rain, no slipperiness. Great cutting weather for the running backs. I think that Boise State's going to go out and have a big game in this one. Boise State has scored over 40 points in every single game that they've had Bachmeier Sears throughout the game, except against BYU, which they didn't have Bachmeier Sears. So, sorry, they scored 42 points in every game except for BYU and Wyoming. Now, BYU, they didn't have Bachmeier Sears, and against Wyoming, there was a ton of snow, horrible conditions, sweeping snow, below freezing temperatures and wind blowing in their faces. No one's going to go. I don't care if it's Alabama out there. They're not going to score probably 20 points or more in that game. So Boise State, or maybe it's Alabama. I don't know. They're run-centric. Maybe they go on and score 20 or so. But they're not going to be putting up 30-plus point numbers in those games. So Boise State went out and performed well in that game. I don't think that the stat number drop-off or the overall point is reflective of what Boise State is. I think that they go out in this game, get back into the 40s. I think they score 42 points versus San Jose State 28. I know San Jose State's a good team, but I think that Boise State's defense is going to be ready for this one. I think they're going to be geared up and ready to go. I think they're going to have a solid performance finally in the second half, complete game. I'm hoping throughout the whole thing here. Boise State, 42 points. I think it's going to be a struggle. I think Boise State's going to pull it out in the end here, but I think that Boise State's going to go out there on the national stage, as they always do. Huge game. Boise State is going to be completely well prepared for this, with the potential in their minds that this might be their last game of the season. That's all it's guaranteed to them. They're going to be going out there determined and ready to win it. they're going to want to go out and prove themselves in this game. So that's my score prediction. Boise State 42 versus San Jose State 28. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you join Bronco Nation Updates page. Over 8,000 members. Great place to root on your Broncos. Again, if you have any feedback for me on my overall videos that I made throughout the year, please post them in the comments. And make sure to like and subscribe if you like these videos. I'll see you guys after the game. Let's hope that Boise State goes out there and has a great game and gets a nice win against the San Jose State team with a chance to jump into the top 25. Thank you so much. And as always, I got two things. If you watch my last top 25 review video, you'll know I'm adding in now to all my videos. I got a new key phrase. I've got my Go Big Blue, but I'm also saying cancel the CFP committee. If you want to hear more about that, you can watch my other top 25 review videos on that. So as always, from now on, cancel the CFP committee and Go Big Blue.